extremely well positioned for this top 8, but clearly it is doing just fine as we are underway here in the quarterfinals. It is a glistener elf here for Ross.
I'm really happy we get to see this matchup again. It was pretty interesting, the interaction between these two decks. I like how low to the ground the Landstill deck is. There's a lot, I think the difficulty here is that the card standstill is just not very safe against an Infect deck.
Yeah. Scalding Tarn will be sacrificed here by Phan. He will search up a Volcanic Island. Shuffle up the deck here in just a moment. Did drop a few cards
Throw
here.
some cards on the ground
Yeah,
for good luck.
Dude, you got to. After we do sort this out.
First feature match, this was a written one, so fortunately there's no video of it. I remember I shuffled my deck and I threw about 15 cards off the table when I did it, and yeah, I was a little nervous for it, you could say.
You don't seem like the type who would be nervous. No.
Oh, man.
You're probably like a Scape Shift deck or something?
I don't know. I think at the time it was Naya.
Okay.
I know. That was a strange time in my life there.
Everybody
I played Vengevines. I didn't know what I was doing.
You saw Lightning Bolt get dazed there by Ross. He's going to play Pendelhaven now and get in for 2 Infect. He's even going to get his Infect counter out and ready. So Lamb with 2 Infect. 8 to go here for the boss, and it is Lamb's job to make sure that doesn't happen. He's going to sacrifice a Scalding Tarn, search up the land here. There's Volcanic Island.
Tom Ross, the strength of the Infect deck, and I really we've come to see this as the deck has gained more popularity, really is the fact that they can win counter wars by how cheap their spells are. You see that 1-drop creature into daze. That's the kind of stuff you see out of Delver. But Tom's deck is even lower to the ground than that. You see cards like Invigorate. There's a lot of the cards in the deck just cost 0.
There's a Wasteland. That's here to take care of Inkmoth Nexus. Ross will draw a copy of Vines of the Vastwood. That's timely.
If you haven't seen Lamb Phan play all day, just a note on his lands here. He's got a really big style. He blacks out the art, the background art, and then he whites out the borders. So he's thinking, like, you said a wasteland, and my first thought is, well, that's not what a wasteland looks like.
It's a very different approach. See the hand here for Ross, a little land heavy. It looks like 2 fetches over there along Force of Will and Invigorate and a Vines of the Vastwood. For Tom, he's able to keep some slower hands that don't kill right away because the game's going to go long. Now, I imagine he would like for it to go short, but there's a lot of interaction available. And here's going to activate and will attack.
Inkmoth Nexus.
It's going to put him up to 3.
No wasteland use there from Lamb Phan.
It's all about timing with that effect. That's the big thing.
Yeah, he wants to dodge Vines of Vastwood.
Yep. Ross going to play Misty Rainforest.
And this is a really big fight of timing. Tom has both Invigorate and Vines of Vastwood, so he's got the nearly lethal. Well, he has lethal pump if he goes for it. And then his last card's a Force Field. It does not have a blue card to accompany it yet.
Yeah, that's the big issue here. Going to search up a Tropical Island here with the Misty Rainforest. Also note, Ross doesn't have another Infect creature in his hand either, so no blue card for Forcible, no backup Infect creature. Kind of all in on this Inkmoth Nexus here. We'll see if he wants to fire it up or not.
You see, Tom is going to leave mana to hopefully get this guy activated and Vines it if Lamb ever goes for the Wasteland.
He's going to pump. Wants to see if maybe there's a sudden shock over here. The card that you actually see is Counterspell. Here's the attack.
And Lamb's going to have to go for the Wasteland.
Yeah, we're going to have a bit of an exchange of resources here. It looks like. You can tell that he's considering wasting this. And he says, okay, I'll take 2 Infects, so no move. He'll sacrifice.
Interesting line for Lamb. I did not expect him to play it this way. Not that it's necessarily wrong. Had he gone for the Wasteland there and was willing to play Counterspell, he would have gotten the Inkmoth off the table. So he has taken 4 points of poison for free right now, which is a commodity. It's not... You can't let them actually keep hitting you. It adds up very quickly.
Looks like the draw was a copy of Spell Pierce.
Excellent draw.
See a couple copies of Mishra's Factory here. Gonna play a Misty Rainforest for now.
There's actually some merit to Lamb just using his Wasteland right now if he's worried about some sort of effect. Right now it's not active, so Tom can't even Vines it.
And I like that play a lot there. Ross will draw a card. It's another land. Verdant Catacombs will come into play. Back to Phan we will go. Sudden shock the draw. There is a Factory. He'll pass the turn back. Noble Hierarch has shown up to the party here for Ross.
Those are Phan's win cons now hitting play. So ideally, this is how Phan wants the game to play out. They're both playing lands. Tom can't really get an offensive going. So now let's see how good Phan's deck is at closing out the game from here.
Stifle was the draw.
Yeah.
Things do get a little bit interesting now. Now he can start actually getting a little bit more aggressive. And he will. He'll fire up a factory after playing one.
Stifle is a card that Phan boarded out last time in this matchup. Can't imagine he's too happy to see one.
Ross will draw another land. See if he wants to hold one or not in case he runs into a brainstorm. He is flooding pretty badly here.
Yeah. What it does let him do is he can now has enough mana where he can actually just hard cast this Forcible and still continue to play cards. It's not the game that Tom wanted to have happen, but it will work in a pinch.
Fire it up. Send it in.
And this is something we always saw Phan earlier in the tournament. Whenever he attacks with these factories, he swings with one and then pumps a lot.
There's an Invigorate. It might actually be hard cast. It's not give you 4 life. Never mind. Tom thought about it briefly there.
There's just no point.
Yeah.
And if I'm Phan, he could fight over this, but the patient blue mage approach here would just be to let it happen.
Yeah, that's
and
exactly what does happen.
Yeah, you traded 1 for 1. That's great. You have more. It's not like it's your last factory.
Yep. I should probably be happy trading that for an Invigorate. That's one less Invigorate you have to worry about. Wasteland to draw. That's going to come into play. That's going to go after the factory. Well, Phan does have a Stifle, and we'll use it. Not a lot of Stifle targets, so.
So this is a real good one.
Yeah.
Tom could hard cast Force of Will at this Stifle. And he's considering it, too.
Yeah. Giving a long look. You see the Vines, the Forest, and the Misty Rainforest, and Wasteland will be countered by Stifle. And they'll just pass the turn back. Both players trying to pick their spots, but both being quite patient.
Saving that Stifle, that counterspell for a rainy day here. Lamb continues the attack. It's 8 turns, so 7 more to get the lethal damage here.
Down to 14. There's another Wasteland. Pass the turn back. Over to Ross. Ross draws another copy of Vines of the Vastwood.
The landspell deck really doesn't win the game quickly.
No. But this is exactly how I feel Lamb wants the game to go. He's probably happy with how things are going right now, and if he works his way into a standstill, he'll be even happier.
Yeah, it's interesting because even though this is his game plan, it still doesn't feel safe to me, per se. Like, it's good, don't get me wrong, but he's not totally safe here.
It's a block with Noble Hierarch and a Vines to the Vastwood, so it's defensive.
I don't think Phan wants to lose his second factory, so you're going to get some counter spells for this one.
Yep, there is a counter spell. Ross says, let's try it again.
Believe Phan has a red card here.
Yeah, it's Shut and Shock in his hand right now. He has a Force Will and a Spell Snare too. So he definitely has some options available. Of course, Spell Snare can't take care of this, but
yeah.
Force of Will removing Spell Snare can, and we might just see Sudden Shock, though he'll start by sacrificing both the fetch lands and going down to 18.
Yeah. Even though Vines of Vastwood kicked costs 2, you cannot Spell Snare it. It's still a 1-mana spell.
Snow-covered island and a volcanic island is what Lamb will search up.
Okay, and this is where I love Sudden Shock, because Phan doesn't have to worry about, well, what does Tom have in response? This just wins.
Yeah, you have nothing in response. You can't. Back Ross's way, we're going to go. He'll draw a card. It's a copy of Berserk. He'll just have to pass the turn back. Phan will quickly untap and take a draw.
Now remember, he can use Berserk to try to kill the factory.
That's what it's going to do. You called it.
Yep. And I believe you can do it after damage, but the Phan wants none of this.
Yep, there's a counter spell to Berserk, so Berserk being used as a removal spell, not going to work either.
That's totally in the color pie. I'm sure that's how they imagined the card would be used when it was printed.
Absolutely. Force the draw. Ross flooding very, very badly here. Looks like he may just have to pass the turn back yet again with just a Force Will. Deploy the Force, kick it back over to Phan. Phan will draw. It's a copy of Brainstorm. He's going to fire in for 2 more. It feels like it's 2005 right now.
Did crack all his fetch lands, but just patient. No rush. We got just a couple more hits with this factory. Should do it.
Crop Rotation was the draw here for Ross. Of course, that card can go and find Inkmoth Nexus, but there's a Wasteland on the table, so it's not even that great.
Yeah. If he hadn't answered a Wasteland, he could actually ambush this factory. He could go get an Inkmoth, activate Ink Moth, Pendlehaven it, block and kill the factory, but you're right, Wasteland is really putting an end to all of that.
Lamb is just going to keep doing what he's doing, which is drawing blue cards and attacking with the
Great.
factory.
Great, more blue cards. Sign me up.
This is a dream come true for you.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like someone might slow down a little bit. Aha, that's the reason why.
One of my favorite sentences to be like, I have 7 cards in my hand and they're all blue.
This is a standstill. Ross is going to sacrifice Verdant Catacombs, search up a land so he can hardcast a Force of Will.
Not all the standstills out of Lamb Fan's deck are safe. This one, however, is.
It's like we're in a time machine, back to an earlier time in Legacy, where things were more honest with their burn spells and their counter spells and the standstills.
I like this deck. It's very clear what Standstill's game plan is.
Yeah.
You counter some things, then you draw some cards.
Force Will's going to take
just
care of
repeat
it. Ends for 2, puts you down to 5. Will Phan. Time to untap. Ross going to draw a card. Copy of Spell Pierce. Shelf life on that one may have expired.
Yeah, the really thing about the Infect deck is it really doesn't play well after turn 6 or so. Some of these decks, aggro combo style decks, can reload, but Infect just isn't one of them.
It's another attack here for 2. Ross may be considering a card like Crop Rotation here. He's going to go reaching for mana. There is the Crop Rotation. Sacrifice a fetch land here to pay the cost. And he will go searching. And there is an Ink Moth next. Quick update for you guys on one match. Dan Jordan with Blue Red Delver is up a game over Royce Walter playing Storm.
Walter fighting the good fight, but it is going to be an uphill climb for him.
Absolutely. The Crop Rotation has resolved. Ink Moth next is in play, but you do see the Wasteland staring that in the face. And looks like we'll be using a Wasteland. There goes Ink Moth. So now Factory will come through. 2 damage will come through. Ross is down to 3. He'll draw a card. It's a copy of Invigorate, not what the doctor ordered. He'll pass the turn back over to Phan, who's going to cast a Brainstorm.
2 more hits to go on Phan's side. Should bring him into game 2. Remember, we started at a nice 16 life when this progression began.
I was going to say, it is slow and steady. Uh-oh, we've accelerated the clock. There's a Factory.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So now next turn it could be lethal.
Yes. This is an end of turn Brainstorm. You draw.
Wow.
Put it into play.
Look at this aggressive line here. he's going to pump it. Oh, man.
There's the pump.
And that's 3.
Absolutely. Lamb Phan is going to win game number 1 here over Tom Ross. Land still up a game over Infect. As we take a look at the sideboards now, we will start with Tom Ross and his 2 Crows and Grips, a Spellskite, a Sylvan Library, a Submerge, a Nature's Claim, an additional Force of Will, and a Spell Pierce, 2 Hydroblast, a Blue Blast, Umzawa Shite, a Necropede, a Bajuka Bog, and a Wasteland. When we saw this match earlier, we saw Sylvan Library be quite good.
Sylvan Library was boarded in, and Nature's Claim was boarded in last time. Now, it'll be interesting to see what Tom does, because just like I'm not sure Lamb Phan has played this matchup from the Landstill side, I'm not sure Tom's played this one from the Infect side. I think both players could be improvising here. So now that they've learned what the other guy does, and they've had a couple hours to sit back on this match, I wonder if any of them will change their approach.
We see on the other side of things for Lamb, he's got 2 Engineer Explosives, 4 copies of Relic Progenitus, 2 Surgical Extractions, a Flusterstorm, a Red Elemental Blast, 2 Pyroblast, and then 3 copies of Pyroclasm. Earlier, we saw Pyroclasm and Engineer Explosives come in.
He had all sorts of things. He had Engineer Explosives, Relic, Pyroclasm, Red Blast, and Pyroblast all after board. That, to me, it seemed aggressive. I don't know if he had full copies of all of them. I doubt he did. I think it's kind of a throw the kitchen sink approach where you play a couple one-ofs. You are a blue deck, so one-ofs, there's actually a real argument made to having some one-ofs, just have extra versatility. Maybe now that he has a better crystallized idea of what he wants to do in the matchup, maybe we'll see lots of copies of one card come in place of, a little bit of a diverse approach.
Well, we know that it's safe to board the Stifles out as they're quite poor in this matchup for Phan. So you can imagine those 4 cards are going to be gone. And then kind of figuring out what else to kind of slice out of the deck. Yeah, doesn't sound like you're a big fan of Standstill in this matchup.
Well, Standstill's really pivotal to Phan's strategy. So I don't actually know how many Standstills you can board out of this. His deck's already very light on card draw. And because of that, sometimes when he gets the lead, it's pretty tenuous. You saw there, if Tom just top decked a couple Ink Moth Nexus, that game could have gone the other direction. So maybe he wants some number of Standstill, but you're right. It's not, he can't confidently play it, because if Tom Ross draws an Ink Moth, which he has 4 of, well, then suddenly Lamb Phan's actually behind under the standstill, and he may have to crack his own standstill.
That would be bad news for him.
Yeah, he wouldn't really want to do that. So I do want to board some of them out. I was really unimpressed, actually, at Pyroblast last time we saw this matchup. It's generally a good card, but I don't think you want to be fighting that way against Infection. There's enough other things that aren't blue. I'm not a huge fan. Engineered Explosives also didn't seem particularly strong. I liked Pyroclasm. That was very good when he played it. So I'd want to board that in. Maybe you could Flusterstorm, I think, is a great board card here.
Okay.
It can counter the green pump spells, unlike Red Elemental Blast.
Makes sense. Does make sense. We'll see how both players do opt to sideboard. Again, we have our other matches here where Dan Jordan, our 6th seed, is up a game over Royce. Walter, Blue-Red Delver versus Storm. Jordan with Blue-Red Delver up a game. Joseph Santa Messino with Mud, our number 7 overall seed, doing battle against Brian Braun to win. Currently playing Jeskai Stoneblade. That's 2 versus 7. And then the Battle of Phillips, Bravervin versus Schoeniger. Miracles matchup.
They're still
4
in game
versus
1.
5. Of course, they're still in game 1. They might still be on turn 1. For all I know, it does take a little while.
The question would be, is the game over yet? Because, I mean, they could still be playing it, but,
Yeah.
has someone won?
We'll see again when we have updates for for those matches. Excuse me. We'll let you guys know. But we do appreciate you joining us this evening here from New Jersey. It is Cedric Phillips and Matthias Hunt, also with Patrick Sullivan, Nick Miller, and Andrew Shrout, the rest of the SCG Live crew here for the quarterfinals of Grand Prix New Jersey at SCG Live. Hashtag GPNJ for your tweets for the rest of this weekend. As again, we did have over 4,000 players come and do battle here in the New Jersey Convention Center. We've whittled it down to 8, and in a couple hours here, we'll whittle it down to 1.
Yeah. And both Tom Ross and Brian Braun-Duin, your 1 and 2 seeds, facing rematches here against kind of the 2 odd ducks of the top 8. You know, Lamb Phan's Landstill deck and Joseph Santomassino's Mud deck. These were both players who went 9-0 on day 1. They played each other actually at the beginning of the day, and we kind of singled them out as, these were not the decks we expected to make 9-0 on day 1, and both of them ended up top-8ing the tournament.
It's been a fun run for these two kind of, as you mentioned, kind of off-the-wall decks. We've seen Blue-Red Delver before, of course. We've seen Miracles. We've seen Storm. Jeskai Stoneblade is a little bit new to the party, but Rudy Briscoe's winning Columbus last week and really solidified that as a player in the format. But now, Landstill might start to pick up in the Legacy scene, and Mud could too, depending on what the result is of the top 8.
It's so interesting. If you look at this Grand Prix, we had 16 players enter today undefeated, only 3 of them ending up in the top 8 of the tournament, which shows just how high the bar is when you're at a 4,000-man tournament.
Yeah. Some of those players, I know Michael Majors, he started off 9-0. He had a very, very rough day too. Ended up finishing the tournament X3-1. So not the desired result for him, but as you mentioned, really tough tournament. A lot of players here. You're going to run into some stiff competition on day 2.
Corey McDuffie starting out 11-0, ended up with 3 losses, losing a couple rounds in a row to not make the PT this time. Still a great performance on his side.
Yeah, really great weekend. But if you know Corey, all he cares about is qualifying for the Pro Tour, and he lost his win-in match in round number 15. You can see the disappointment on his face. It is definitely frustrating as we do begin game number 2 here. It's a misty rainforest. Tropical Island is what we'll also search up, and we'll see what his turn 1 play is going to be. Perhaps a cantrip. Maybe we'll see something like a Noble Hierarch or an Infector like Glistener Elf. One thing we know for sure is that he does want to sacrifice the fetch lands pretty quickly because he does not want to get stifled. He's just going to cast a Brainstorm now. So 3 cards here in Spell Pierce, Crop Rotation, and it looks like a Daze. 2 will have to go back.
A lot of permission in this hand, a lot of blue cards going on, but it's a little threat light. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this hand develops.
I think only a Blight Agent, but it actually looks like the other land is copying Ink of the Nexus, so maybe a little more threat heavy than we initially thought.
Yeah, now if you look at Lamb's Phan's hand, it's a sea of red cards. Looks like a pair of Pyroclasms, some number of Bolts and or Sudden Shocks.
Yeah, there are at least 2 Pyroclasms over there, which is just horrifying.
So Blighted Agent gets to start on Tom Ross's board.
Don't know how long it's going to be there.
Yeah, so if you're a fan, you have to make these cards line up. You can Clasm away a Blighted Agent. You can Sudden Shock a Ink Moth. You can also just Red Blast the Blighted Agent.
It was an attempt, but it got dazed.
I will say I like the blackout border on Red Blast.
I was actually thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I think it looks actually fantastic.
That was sweet. Some of them, I think the Pyroclasms in particular, I remember thinking those are kind of wonky.
That Lightning Bolt looks cool.
Lightning Bolts, yeah, the ones that are just fire. I
Yeah.
like those ones. No second land for Phan.
Yep. It's notable. Now this is where things get really interesting because I think Tom is actually thinking about this. We know Tom has a Wasteland in his deck.
Just thinking about crop
He
rotating
could
for
crop
Wasteland.
rotate for Wasteland.
Get Phan down to 0 permanence.
The big question here is how can he take advantage of it? Because if
That's his last land.
Yeah, let's say he crop rotates, right? Which land is he going to sacrifice? It looks like he's going to take a more conservative approach, and looks like somebody has found a
I'll
Wasteland.
Just brainstorm into the Wasteland. It's much easier.
It's got a lot easier. Also, Sylvan Library, too. The other card is a copy of Become Immense, a card that we have seen him win some games with in his Infect deck. So now things are getting mighty interesting. He's hoping that Phan doesn't draw land, but he did. It's a Fairy Conclave.
Yeah, it is a one-of Wasteland in Tom's deck, to be fair.
There is the Wasteland. He will use it, fire it off, attempt to take care of this volcanic island, getting the red mana off the board to shut off all these red cards that you guys can see in his hand, those pyroclasms and what look to be sudden shocks. Phan's going to float some mana. I imagine Tom will move to his attack step.
Yeah, that will clear the mana pool. Phan with no stifles left in the deck.
And there is a Sylvan Library.
So once again, we see Phan with these engineered explosives. He had them last time they played, and they really didn't do much work. And it's a little stuck here too. But it's the lands that are getting to him here, not the engineered explosives.
Now, we talked about the one Wasteland that Tom had access to draw to, but it's actually a second Wasteland that he has in his sideboard.
Oh wow,
which
you're
he has
absolutely right.
drawn and is using to leave Phan permanentless.
Well, this game has taken a really poor turn for Phan.
Now it's just an attack for 1. Now Phan has to top deck his way out of this. That is not a land, it's a copy of Spell Pierce. He may have to discard here. He's just gonna play an explosives on 0 instead. Ross will consult his hand. He wants to make sure he knows exactly what this will do. But he is okay with this, as now it's time for a Sylvan Library activation.
So before we had the combo dying here, we do have an update.
Storm has tied it up.
All right.
So I know you have a little smile on your face.
He's got only kind of. He's got to win game 3 on the draw. I don't like that. I'm not smiling about that.
Royce Walter was able to tie it up against Dan Jordan, so they'll play a third game. Again, when we have an update for you guys on that, we'll let you know as Ross does search up a tropical island with the Verdant Catacombs.
I will tell you, if the Storm player can get through this matchup and start getting to play against decks like Mud, he'll be thrilled.
Updating our Miracles mirror, our Phillip mirror. Game 1 goes to Schoeniger. A very, very, very skilled Infect pilot. I know most of our players here, as there's a Become Immense. Phan will take a look at that. It's the Delve +6/+6 spell.
I like that Tom just takes the opportunity to fire this off while Phan's permanentless. I understand that it's very hard to play this board wrong, but I like that he's just not, lots of people always want to lethal with this spell, and he's just, let's get the damage in while we can.
Scalding Tar in the top deck. Phan going to go down a little bit lower here, but back to Schoeniger very quickly. Very, very skilled Miracles pilot, very well known in Europe, beginning to make a name for himself, and he is one of the last people I want to play against when he's piloting Miracles. He is quite good at it. Top 8'd GP Paris.
Top 4'd even.
Yeah, and now he's in the top 8 here. Sylvan Library activation.
And you see this is a Spell Skite in the Sylvan Library. This is one of those cards out of the sideboard for Tom.
Yep. Protection against all these great red removal spells. Doesn't stop Sudden Shock, though.
Nothing stops Sudden Shock. Remember, you can't play around Sudden Shock. It's just, all of a sudden, it's just going to get you.
There's a Gataxian Probe. Is it safe for Ross to move in, is the question. He wants to take a look at Phan's hand. There's the grip. 2 Lightning Bolts, 1 Sudden Shock, 2 Pyroclasm, 2 copies of Spell Pierce.
You see why Phan kept the hand. There certainly was an allure to it. He had multiple Lightning Bolts, Red Blast, 1 land. It's a hand that could react forever. It didn't have any pro action, and it turned out to be really soft to the 2 Wastelands in Tom's deck.
Ross draws a Berserk. It's going to fire up, come into the red zone.
No need to try to make it a 1-turn game. 2 turns is plenty.
No, he can just fire it off right now. He's got the Berserk here. This will be either a Spell Pierce or a Lightning Bolt. And Tom has, you see, he's already got the 2 cards ready for Force of Will.
Yep.
Berserk doubles the power.
Knows he has it.
Yeah, he doubles the power, and that is going to do it. Tom Ross is going to win game number 2 here over Lam Phan. And that means they're headed to a 3rd one. Winner of this match has the pleasure of playing against Miracles.
Yeah, and we've seen Tom not scared of the Miracles matchup. Remember, his finals invitational win over Reed Duke was against a very competent Miracles pilot.
Of course.
As for Lam Phan, I'm interested to see how this control deck goes against the other control deck of the format. Land still, I can't imagine likes its Miracles matchup, but you know, I don't think you want to be the sudden shock lightning bolt player when your opponent's playing Miracles.
Well, if you know Legacy well, you know that Lamb Fan has been playing Landstill for quite a long time, and I have to imagine a player of this caliber playing this deck, he knows that Miracles exists.
Yeah.
Maybe he's played against it over the course of this weekend, and I don't think he would walk in with a bad matchup. Though I do agree with you, on paper, it does not look pretty. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled about it, but maybe it's fine.
I do
They're
like the
playing a
idea
lot
of
of the same
Standstill.
cards. Standstill seems sweet.
Yeah.
I like that. I like having a lot of Snapcaster mages. There's
That's
enough
fine.
counter spells to fight it. There's a lot of good things going on.
Take a look at the sideboards one more time here. It looks like Lamb may be changing a couple of things up here before getting ready for game 3. Ross also going to take a look as well. Things, of course, do change a little bit when it's on the play or the draw, and Lamb will be on the play here for game 3. Again, this is a rematch. We have seen these players play already this weekend, and Ross was victorious then, and we'll see if he'll be victorious again. This looks like he is looking for a ruling from the judge. Just wants to make sure he knows everything that works, as Lamb looks like he's happy with this configuration, shuffling up for game 3.
Yeah, and this is what happened last time. Tom lost game 1 both times. He is so far 3-0 in post-board games against Phan.
Fair enough.
Whatever the board plan is, he's doing it right.
That seems to be the case. To Tom's credit, he does have some nice cards to bring in here after sideboard, where Lamb just has some okay options.
I haven't been very impressed at any of Lamb's cards out of the sideboard. Yeah, I think the Red Blasts are fine. Plasm is actually it's a little underwhelming. It costs 2. It's 2 at sorcery speed's not great against Infect. It's hard. I mean, not saying that you wouldn't want to board it in. It's really hard not to board in, but.
Quick update for you guys on our 2 versus 7. Brian Brondwin does win in game number 1 over Joseph Santomassino. Jeskai Stoneblade up a game here over Mud. Winner of that match plays against the winner of Dan Jordan playing Blue Red Delver and Royce Walter playing Storm. They are in game number 3.
And will history repeat itself? Brian and Tom, victors over their respective opponents last time in the Swiss.
Yeah.
Can they pull it off again? Tom's going to have to do it on the draw. That wasn't a problem last time.
Lamb Fan trying to play spoiler. You saw him keep a 1-lander that game, and again, it did make sense. A lot of red spot removal, plenty of cards that he can draw out in that situation. But things did not come together very well, but also because Ross did have 2 wastelands that game, the only 2 that he plays. See what Fan can find here for game number 3 as we are about to begin.
And Pyroclasm among others in his opener.
There's a snow-covered island there too. He says he's going to keep. Ross, going to give it a look over.
Yeah, not as sure.
Yeah, it's going back. Time for 6.
Will history repeat itself here? Fan still looking for that post-board game.
That's interesting. I mean, it does seem as though game 1 is pretty good for him, and the matchup does seem pretty good too. Just the effect that Sudden Shock and all these removal spells have, it's very tough, I think.
On paper, I liked Phan in this matchup. I liked it last time and even this time. But Tom's got leeway. If I have noticed, when Tom gets ahead, life becomes really hard for Lamb Fan's deck.
It's all about getting ahead, though. If he can get ahead, it seems like it's pretty good. But getting ahead seems hard, though. He will keep his 6 very quickly. It's snow-covered island to start off game number 3. Ross, you can see he's got lands. One of them is a tropical island. He'll just pass the turn back over to Phan.
2 Invigorates from Tom's side, it looks like, and a Force of Will. I don't think he has any creatures yet. Just has a crop rotation.
Oh, this is interesting. You see the first couple of lands. There's a Pendelhaven. For Phan, he hasn't played a red source of mana, but a Scalding Tarn, comes rolling off the top. So red mana does not look to be a problem.
Had it.
Is this a standstill? It is.
Had the red mana all along.
Yeah.
No big. Now, in response to this standstill, Tom could go ahead and crop rotate into an Inkmoth Nexus, which could really backfire for Phan.
Well, he's got a wasteland sitting on the table, so this is interesting to me.
Well, it's interesting, right? So if Tom had another wasteland in his own hand, he could get the Inkmoth and then waste the waste. That would be a real good trump. doesn't have too long to do that. He's going to have to just draw one of his 2 wastelands.
Okay. It's an update. It's a Matthias Hunt fist pump. It's Storm taking down Dan Jordan. Combo is moving on to play the winner of Mud and Jeskai Stonblade.
To be fair, all credit to Dan Jordan. I've worked with him before in Magic events. Dan Jordan's a great guy. Great achievement for him today. Top 8 again, getting back onto the Pro Tour. Awesome all around. So for Blue Red Delver, it was the deck of the tournament, and he's the highest finishing person with the deck.
You see in Ross's hand right now, he actually does have a wasteland there. So things have taken a turn.
Was that the draw for the turn? I didn't think it was there earlier. Maybe it was.
It may have been.
Yeah. It's a pretty big turn to waste the waste. Then you're going to make Phan crack his
He
own
has to, right?
standstill.
Unless he peels a wasteland of his own.
Right.
Then that's the only thing that changes things. This is mighty interesting.
Yeah, the question with Phan is, did he want to tap that wasteland? He could have, I guess, cast it off Scalding Tarn.
This is true. Bang. That is so interesting. He could have used the Scalding Tarn, left the wasteland open, and this may have been a bit of a hiccup, as now he will sacrifice the Scalding Tarn. He will search. It's probably going to be a snow-covered mountain, as he doesn't want to get his red source wastelanded. And there it is. It was sitting on the top of the deck. So now the question is will he maybe fire off a lightning bolt and give Ross 3 cards, or will he be patient and maybe try to use his life total as a resource?
There was a lot of unknown information there, to be fair, on land side. I mean, he played a standstill onto an empty board, and time had to crop rotate into the manland and then draw the wasteland. So there was a lot of things he really didn't see coming. That said, Phan's going to take some poison here.
Tropical Island.
And Tom can cash in free damage for a while here. Remember, he can break that standstill. So he just has to make sure he kills Lamb when he does it.
Every draw step here for Lamb is going to be super interesting, because I'm just looking for the white bordered card that he draws, because that means it's a wasteland.
Yeah.
Let's see what this draw is. Not yet. Lightning bolt.
It's up to 8 cards. Looks like he's going to go back to discarding. Pyroclasm. This is another time where Pyroclasm has just been really weak.
Yeah. There are definitely games where it's going to be very powerful, as Ross does draw Tropical Island, puts that into play, fires up the Nexus, but there will be other games where it's quite poor, and this is one of the poor ones. Phan going to draw a card. It has a white border, but it's Force of Will.
Yeah, at some point you're going to have to break this standstill. I don't know if I want to go any higher on poison.
The question is, how low do you go? Up to 5.
3 cards is a pain, but it's only so, like...
That's a stopper.
Well,
no, it's not flying.
I
take it back.
Flies.
I take it back.
It's just Wasteland.
Yep. Fire in.
Maybe he goes for it now. He's got a lot of cards that work here.
6. So interesting.
Standstill may have been his own undoing here.
Yeah. Now he's going to make his move. That's a lightning bolt. Standstill's going to trigger. Ross is the one who gets 3 cards. Glistener Elf, Verdant Catacombs, and a Misty Rainforest. All things being honest, not the best 3 cards drawn.
Could have been a lot worse.
That's an Invigorate. Don't forget, this is all after the damage has been dealt.
Well played here, yes.
Yep.
So I'm saving his Nexus, but you're absolutely right.
You don't want to do this in the attack step. That would be bad news.
Looks like that'll be fine for Phan.
Yep.
Not going to try any harder. I mean,
now Ross will have to do some discarding.
What's nice is that Lamb waited until Ross had 7 cards in hand and then cracked it so that Ross would have to discard all the extra cards. Still giving Ross a lot of looting, but it's not giving him raw card advantage.
Tom looks like he's happy to discard these cards. Again, Lamb has been playing standstill decks for some time, so this isn't anything new to him.
Looks like Brainstorm, Fetchland, Berserk, so he's preparing to discard. Your opponent's discarding Brainstorms. It's not a good sign.
Must have a pretty good hand. He's taking Brainstorm back. He's going to discard Glistener Elf, Berserk, and a Verdant Catacombs to his discard step.
All right, so now we have the standstill off the table, so land can start to fight again. These Pyroclasms he has, though, just not doing anything good with Inkmoth Nexus.
Phan's draw for the turn was a copy of Wooded Foothills. That comes into play as land number 4 and red source of mana number 2.
Yeah, I think blue source number 2 is really the key here. He has the card Counterspell in his hand, and he has been unable to cast it up until now.
Now, what makes this kind of interesting, too, it looks like he's going to play a Relic of Progenitus, is Lamb has to be a little bit wary, or excuse me, Tom needs to be a little bit wary of a card like Sudden Shock, but as you've mentioned quite a few times, there's not really anything he can do about it.
Lamb has Sudden Shock, you lose your Inkmoth.
Yeah.
It's just how it goes.
Noble. Lamb will take a look. There's a Misty. Activate in Exalted Trigger.
Tom's speeding things up a little bit here. I dare say he's going for the kill.
No, we know what happens when he does that. We've seen this before.
Well, he's not going to go for the kill if Lamb takes it, but if Lamb tries to kill it, Tom's going to kill him. He doesn't.
Up to 8 Infect.
Lamb may still fight over this on end step.
Noble Hierarch is sick, so he's going to have to sacrifice Misty Rainforest.
Interesting. I like this. Phan can bolt the Inkmoth Nexus, and actually this plays into the 3rd copy of Pyroclasm that's in Lamb's hand.
It's true.
Maybe he can score that 2-for-1 on creatures here. I don't know if he'll win the fight over the Inkmoth, but the Pyroclasm will be pretty good if this is Blighted Agent that Tom's going for.
Yeah. Looks like they're trying to figure out exactly where they are at. Lamb looks like he wants to sacrifice the Wood of Foothills, but can't do that just yet. See if Tom wants to deploy the Agent or the Sylvan Library. He's going to go with the Agent.
He's got Phan so close. All right, I do think we see the end step Lightning Bolt. He's got to get that Inkmoth off the table.
Does make sense. It looks like Lamb is going to sacrifice a Wood of Foothills. This looks like in response to the Blight Agent. Doesn't look like that's resolved just yet.
All right, gets Volcanic Island, so...
We had a feeling that was going to happen.
Yeah, he still has access to Bolt and Counterspell if he needs it.
It's all about how you order these spells now. You see a Bolt, the actual card Counterspell, 3rd Pyroclasm. There's also a Force of Will there. Here's Lightning Bolt. He said this needed to happen.
Yeah, he needed to kill it. I like the time he chose. If he had done this during combat, Tom would have killed him.
There's an Invigorate. That's how he would have killed him.
Yeah, and now Phan actually has a Spell Pierce here. He doesn't have to spend his Counterspell if he doesn't need to. And Spell Pierce was already getting dangerously close to not being a card. Phan's not going to let the fight end here. He's going to hit back. Question is it Counterspell? Is it Spell Pierce? He has Force of Will as well.
Yep. Those are the 4 cards. Spell Pierce, Counterspell, Force of Will, and then the 3rd Pyroclasm. It will be a Spell Pierce. Targeting the Invigorate.
Does Tom has Force plus blue card, land, and Sylvan Library.
He's going to let this go, though.
Let it go.
And now Relic will be activated. This will give Phan a card. Now it's time to untap. Now it's time to draw.
Can he clean it up? He's got the Pyroclasm. There's going to be a fight. Phan can win this fight, too.
Brings Pyroclasm forward very quickly. He's already discarded 2. But...
It's the last one.
Yep.
And that's one of the weirder blacked out cards, I kind of think. It's got like this wedge thing going on. But anyway, it's Pyroclasm. It still works. Still deals 2.
Tom doesn't even fight over it. He just lets it go. Draws a Daze for the turn. And this looks like maybe what he wants to fight over. This is Sylvan Library.
And because of the Daze drawn this turn, Tom Ross gets to win this fight.
I think so. There is a Daze. And Library is a card that gets to keep him in the game.
Yeah, Force plus blue card in both players' hands. Phan has Force plus blue card. Tom has Force plus blue card. Interesting. Daze, generally not a good draw at this point in the game, but yeah. It was huge here.
It's absolutely phenomenal here. There's Force. Remove blue card. 1 card left in Phan's hand. Tom looking at his Force in a Brainstorm. I think you got to fight over this. Sylvan Library is too good in this matchup. Tom's going to Brainstorm first. A little risque.
He doesn't find a blue card. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. I was going to say,
and Inkmoth.
Okay.
Yeah, you fight back now. That would have been risky. If Tom didn't find a blue card there, that would have, or a fetch land.
Yeah.
If he'd just gotten a bunch of pump spells, that'd have
Force.
been real awkward.
Remove Brainstorm.
And things
going to work out.
Things are looking up again for Tom Ross.
Things were looking so good for Phan, too. I thought the end of turn, kill the Inkmoth Nexus was beautiful. wins the war, draws a card with the relic, and now we have this big battle.
It was that top decked days that really did it.
So it's all going to resolve. And now Sylvan Library is going to be the thing that's left. Land for the turn. I believe was an Inkmoth Nexus. Yep, so just going to pass the turn back. Excuse me, he has an Inkmoth Nexus in his hand. He already played a land, so Lamb's going to get in for 2 points of damage. Well, the getting's good.
Yeah, now, to remember, Lamb cannot knock this library guy off the table. He doesn't have a way to do that, so. He does have some card draw he can draw. Some cards we have not yet to see out of Lamb are 3 copies of Snapcaster Mage, a copy of Treasure Cruise, a copy of Dig Through Time, a copy of Jace. We haven't seen them in any of these games.
If it's Snapcaster Mage you want, Lamb has one in his hand. He's also got a Pyroblast, too.
So they have to do something. That Inkmoth is going to kill him next turn.
Well, I'm certainly going to try.
And because of that cracked relic, actually, his Snapcaster Mage, he does not have an answer to the Inkmoth.
You see the graveyard, it's a Pyroclasm, it's a Force of Will and a Counterspell. Snapcaster, Pyroblast in hand. The draw step is a Sudden Shock.
That one's good here, right? That's all. That
Yeah, it is.
That is, I mean, it's only justice. Tom got the days at a really good time that Lamb gets his own top deck to keep himself in the game.
Well. How things have changed in this game now.
I love how Sudden Shock plays in Legacy because there's always usually such a complex counterspell fight in Legacy. It's such a large stack, and there's so much, do I play around this? Do I play around that? And then Sudden Shock, there's none of that. It's not no, this just works. I play it and then your guy dies. There's no thinking about it.
Tom's going to sacrifice his land to go get a Tropical Island.
What is it? Counterbalance can actually counter it.
Yep.
But that's about it.
You can Willbender it.
You can unmorph your creatures with one on the stack.
There are very few ways to stop a Sudden Shock. And
you could Mistfire Weaver. That's if we want to go to Khans of Tarkir.
Which I don't.
Just got to play Mistfire Weaver in Legacy, and then you're great.
A Krosan Grip, a Hydroblast, and a Verdant Catacombs are the cards that Ross is looking at here. Now, one thing that Ross needs to do and keep in mind is he's at 9. He's been aggressively using Sylvan Library when these two players have played, but he is playing against a deck that does have some reach and Lightning Bolts and Sudden Shock, so this could get a little risky, though he will take the card.
Going to 5. That's probably the last bonus card he gets. I don't think he... Well, he doesn't want to go... He plays fetch lands. He certainly doesn't want to go to 1. His opponent plays red. He plays Force of Wills. You can't do that, but 1 extra card seems great.
It's an attack. There's an Exalted trigger.
You just got to Sudden Shock that land. There's nothing he can do about it.
Yep, there that is. Bye-bye. We'll go back this way. Ross is at a dangerously low life total. Again, Lightning Bolt, and we can't forget that Lamb has Snapcaster Mage in his hand. So again, this is a dangerously low life total. Here's an attack. There's a Krosan Grip. Can't let that happen.
Well, just like Sudden Shock happens, so does Krosan Grip. Same mechanic.
Send it back over to Ross. He'll take a look at the top couple of cards. Noble Hierarch, and a Verdant Catacombs.
Well, time to change the plan. What's Lamb at? Is it 23?
I don't know if we can change the plan. I don't know if we can change the plan.
Well, we're not dealing any infect damage for a while.
Oh. There's that. Okay, he's with you. It's an attack for 2.
Boys, I mean, all right, so now we got him on a 12-turn clock.
Well,
check that, 11. Yeah. 11. Not even 12.
Scalding Tarn the draw.
Cracks that fetch, it'll be 10.
Oh, yes, look at the math.
Turns just whittling away here.
Gataxian Probe. I like that. Info's probably pretty nice.
Info's great. Digging a card deeper is great. Yeah, absolutely.
Here is the Probe, but you got to pay the mana for it. You can't go to 3.
Yeah, you probably want to pay.
And I like this even more. Protect your hand. There aren't a lot of targets. There are a lot of targets for that card in this deck, so I actually kind of like this. Okay, I'll fight you back.
Every good Pyroblast deserves a Hydroblast. Look at this Ice Age counter war over Gitaxian Probe.
All over looking at the hand and cantripping. All right, well, fine. In for 2 more. Put you down to 19.
I like it when Hydroblasts and Pyroblasts get in a fight. There's something like this flavor to me that I really, this is what they're supposed to be doing.
It's pretty great. There's a Misty Rainforest. Pass the turn back. Ross is going to take a look. Force of Will among those cards. There's also a Noble Hierarch there. It looks like he's going to take the Force of Will, and there's an attack for 2 more. So we're going the other way.
He does have 5 mana. He has he can just cast that Force.
Brian Bronduin and Joseph Santa Messina are going to game number 3, by the way. Mud able to tie things up. Vine to the Vast with the draw.
You're joking about Tom beating him up, but that's how this game's going to end. Tom is going to put him to 0 life points.
I was joking. I may not be anymore. There's an attack for 2, puts you down to 15. You did see the factory come to play last turn. Let's make it 14 due to the fetch.
Lamb just not respecting the damage plan at all here, just fetching.
Well.
Wow. It's. I mean, I do think it's how he may lose this game if he does.
I mean, it's definitely within the realm of possibility now. I will say that. Where I didn't think it was before, I do think it is now. Lamb's going to take a look at the graveyard, see what's over there. Again, in Ross's hand right now, he has an Invigorate. He's got a Vine to the Vastwood and a Force of Will. Wasteland.
Yeah. Lamb still has Snapcaster Mage,
Yep.
so he's got to feel pretty confident right now.
There's an attack. Invigorate. Couldn't do it fast enough.
Oh, he's waiting for this to happen.
Snapcaster Mage. Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
yes, because Snapcaster would get, well, it would get Sudden Shock. Actually, he'd be able to beat the Sudden Shock, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, he can do a couple of things there, but what's going to happen here is now Lamb is going to get 4 life back, so he's going up to 17, but Tom leaves him empty-handed. Tom will take a look at the top couple of cards. Noble Hierarch among them. There's also a copy of Become Immense.
Oh, look at all this pump. Tom's going to get him good. What are you at? Oh, 17.
17's a lot.
You play the Hierarch first. You got to get more exalted.
Yeah, 3 + 6 is 9, + 4 is
3 a turn, so 1, 2,
Jeez.
so 3 a turn. So right now it's 6 turns, but it's a 4-turn clock.
Yeah.
With
Tom
things
also
to become immense.
Tom also did the check to see how many Pyroclasms are gone. They're all gone.
Yeah,
And
one can
that's
be
actually important.
Snapcast.
That's true. Take a draw. It's the only card that Lamb has in his hand. We don't get a good look at it. Ross is going to activate the library again. Blighted Agent.
Oh, does this mean we're not going to win with damage? I'm very disappointed if this is how this ends.
I hate to bring the disappointment to you. I'm not quite sure, honestly. I'm not quite sure that Tom is sure if he wants to shift gears.
Well, I don't know if Tom wants to put another creature onto the board here, actually. As dorky as this Noble Hierarch aggro plan is, it's going to work.
This is going to become immense. It's an attack for 9 points of damage.
And he's got Lamb down to 5 life, 8 poison. If you get him just down to 2 and 8 poison, then you can finish Decimator Web him and finish him off both ways at once.
He makes his move with to become immense. He's trying to do this with regular damage. Now here's a Vine to the Vastwood.
So that'll put Lamb down to 1. Lamb has a Scalding Tarn.
That'll shut that off. What's this card? It's just a Wasteland.
In hand?
For Lamb right now, yes.
That's not going to do anything about it. Lamb's going to go to 1. He's going to need a Snapcaster, I think.
What is that card? What is that card? It's blue.
Is it Snapcaster Mage? That's the blue card he needs.
Yeah. Oh, Lamb, what is that card? One of them is Wasteland, the other is a mystery. I can't believe what I just saw. Tom Ross wins this match over Lamb Phan, 2-1. Infect is what we call the deck. Infect is typically how it wins, and he just did it with regular damage and about 20 of it.
Oh, the eight Infect, that was a ruse. See, that was the distraction.
Oh, it's a big trick.
Yeah. To get him that way he undervalues your Noble Hierarchs, and then that's where you get him.
I don't know how many times he's gotten it done with regular damage, but you can put another notch. Wow, 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 Tom Ross.